He was troubled for the army's sake, for the journey was difficult. They were waiting for Alexander outside every city, prophets who brought forward their particular gods and their other sacrifices, naming him a new world-conquering Sesgoskionis. For when he reached Memphis, they sat him on the throne of Hephaestus, and they dressed him in a robe, like an Egyptian king. 96. And Alexander saw a statue of this kind. It was made of a black stone and had this writing on the base: "This king who fled shall return to Egypt, not having grown old but rejuvenated, and he shall make your enemies, the Persians, subject to you." And he asked, "Whose statue is this?" And they said, "This is the last king, Nectanebos, when the Persians were coming to make war upon Egyptians. He, through the sorcery of his magic power, saw the gods of the Egyptians in the enemy armies at the time of their entry into Egypt. And having thus learned of their betrayal, he secretly fled. And when we sought him and entreated the gods as to where the king might have fled, the one who is God in the Serapean temple in the underworld gave this oracle: Your king who has fled shall return to Egypt, not old as he was, but as the tender youth." And when Alexander heard this, he ran and climbed up onto the statue and embraced it and said, "This is my father, and I am his son. The oracle of your God did not lie to you, but still I am amazed that you are really completely vanquished by the barbarian notion. For you have walls not made by human hands that could not be taken by the enemy. For there are surrounding rivers which protect your city, and winning paths so narrow and hard to pass that it is impossible for a large army to attack you. For I, even with a small force, had to struggle to reach you because of the hard going. This is rather the justice of providence above and of God. For why did you, who have fertile land and rivers, obey those who did not have such dominion? For if you had also ruled well with these things which you had received as gifts, the barbarians who had not been granted these things would have perished. Since they do not have resources for war, and you have agriculture skill, why should you serve those who have not? And why should those who have not take from those who have?" 98. And having said this, Alexander sought the same tribute from them as they were paying Darius. And he said, "I shall not hoard it in my storeroom, but rather shall spend it in your city Alexandria, which is in Egypt and is the capital of the whole world." And when he had thus spoken, they gladly gave him their possessions. And they directed the king with honors through Pelusium. And Alexander took his army and journeyed directly to Assyria. And he made the neighboring cities obedient and docile. 144. And in turn, Demosthenes said, "We shall continue our reply." Xerxes said, made war. He blockaded the seas with ships and sowed the land with troops. He obscured the sky with arms and filled Persia with Greek prisoners. He captured and took his power with the Greeks. But of those that have opposed him, this man had made not slaves but soldiers, and those who were his enemies he made his auxiliaries. For Alexander has ruled all in this way, and he has maintained his power by doing kindness to his friends. And the Athenians, who are the friends and counselors of Alexander, are seeking to seize, being such by speaking as enemies. It is the shame of shames for you, the preceptor and teachers of Alexander, to appear as fools. Not one of the Greek kings has entered Egypt except Alexander, and he did this not for making war, but in order to ask an oracle for the gods as to where he should build a city to immortalize his name. And then he laid its foundations and built it. And since it is very clear that when any task has been started rapidly, its completion too comes quickly into view. He went on to Egypt, which was under the rule of the Persians, and the Egyptians begged to join his campaign against the Persians. That wise man gave them this answer: "It is best for you, Egyptians, to work at the overflow of the Nile and the cultivation of the land, rather than to arm Ares' boldness and to make Egypt subservient to him. Alexander shall not be the thigh mighty conqueror of the whole world, for a king is nothing unless he have fit and decent land." Alexander, the first of the Greeks, took Egypt, thus becoming the first of the Greeks and of the barbarians. How many myriad companies will that land feed? Both those who have settled there and those who fight in war. How many empty and unpopulated cities will she fill and populate? She is as rich in population as she is in wheat. And whatever the king requests from her, abundantly she supplies. And if he wishes troops, she gives them. If he requests grain, she has enough to give to the point of satiation. And if he wants gold for tribute, he gets it. And do you Athenians wish to make war on Alexander, who has such great resources of the subsistence of his armies? Even if it were our will and desire to make war on Alexander, the times do not permit it. End.